and welcome to a new video for me. This week it is going to be our reset, preparing for the next month of reading, that being July, my birthday month, where I am just reading books that I've really wanted to get to for a really long time. That's the plan. But let's go through the weekly TBR, starting with our weekly quote. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart, and that is coming to us from Anne Frank, whose voice needs to be heard more than ever with everything that's happening in the world. And honestly, this quote amazes me. How you could go through all of that, having to live in hiding and traverse borders and everything, and still believe in the good of people. That Anne Frank, what an icon. Now let's go through the books I'm reading. To start my day, I am reading Appalachian Reckoning, a region response to Hillbilly Elegy by Anthony Harkins and Meredith McCarroll. So that's to start my day with. Then our kind of main focus, because I should finish this book today, is The Rise of Magicks by Nora Roberts. This is Chronicles of the One, Book 3. So this is the third book in a series. I don't really know how much I can say. I think this paragraph does a good job. So, after the sickness known as the Doom tore across the globe and civilization crumbled in its wake, people had no choice but to turn back to the land to survive. But in this desolate, radically altered world where magic has become commonplace, hunger is not the only danger. So, that is that book. Then my mood read is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. This is about a woman who is listening to a podcast one day, and it's a true crime podcast, and through that she finds out one of her best friends from college, her college roommate, was found hanging. And was it murder? Was it suicide? So she goes back to their college town and goes to investigate this accident. And along the way, a lot from her past that she wants to forget is being uncovered, and she is going along with the podcast host as they try to uncover what happened to her friend. Lastly, we have my mood read, which is Edge of Eternity by Ken Follett. Right now, we have gone back to our East German plot line, and that has been, I've been loving that, because I don't know anything about East Germany except that Germany was divided in two, and that's all I know. So we have characters who are trying to escape communism, and just what it was like to live behind the Iron Curtain, essentially. But again, there's a lot of plot lines going on in that book. That's just what we're focusing on right now, and that is everything that I'm reading this week. I'm gonna have a bit of a snack because the day has just been kind of hectic, as Mondays typically are, and we are in a heat wave right now. I did have the option to go stay at a hotel, but the thing I hate about staying in hotels, I have all this junk. Books aren't junk, but I have all this stuff, clothes, everything that I have to carry back and forth. And yeah, so I prefer to stay at home, and honestly, it's not that bad, knock on wood. Tomorrow and Wednesday are going to be our hottest days, but Wednesday is also going to have thunderstorms, so the rain will cool things down, and we will get out of this like triple digit temperatures that we're having right now. So I'm sticking it out, staying at home. Well, I'm not going to a hotel because, I'm still going to the stores, going to the restaurants, doing what a person has to do. But yeah, so I do have that option, and we are playing it by ear. So if it just gets unbearable, then yeah, I will go stay at a hotel. But we will be getting, finally, I've been begging for like 10 years to get a new AC unit, because ours, it does not work all the time. Some days it'll work fine, like it's working right now, but other times it will just go berserk. So we are finally going to be calling and seeing about getting a new unit and getting new ductwork. I say ductwork, but it's with a T, not a duck like quack quack quack. So y'all know I'm not really an industrial person. I will just let the guys do what they need to do. So, but that's what we're looking at, getting a new unit and getting new ductwork. So, hopefully we get all of that sorted. I don't know how long any of that will take, because my dad had jury duty where he was like selected and had to go to the place and all that, but like the people pled guilty, so like he didn't have to do anything. So that's why we had to wait, because we're like, we don't know what these trials are going to do. So because I I don't want to deal with the AC people because I have, as I just said, I don't even know how to say ductwork. So I would have no idea what to be telling them to do. And if they're telling me stuff, that kind of stuff's going to go right over my head. So I prefer to have my dad here when the air conditioning people are here, and all that. So that is what has been happening today. I am, as I said, hungry, so I'm going to go get a snack. Okay guys, I just finished the Rise of Magicks by Nora Roberts, so we're going to do my review on it. Starting with characters, I'm going to be giving a 2 because these characters, it didn't do a great job at reintroducing these characters and reminding us of the backstories of characters, as I remembered the names of the people, but didn't really remember all of their stories, especially they're all at Fallon's perspective, but like our male character, like his, like, you know, our love interest, I didn't really remember his backstory and how he got to where he is. So again, this could all be a me problem if you read them close together. And when I do reread it, that's the plan, to read them back to back to back. But reading years apart, reading a year apart is a little less than that. But I did have some confusion. Also, I just didn't feel anything towards these characters. I do remember, so Fallon's our main character. She's like our chosen one kind of person. In the previous book, I didn't really like her. I felt she was a Mary Sue. And here, I didn't feel anything towards her whatsoever. So Atmosphere, I'm going to give a 3 because I do like it. I like this kind of dystopia. This is listed as a fantasy, and it's very like borderline fantasy, sci-fi, fantasy dystopian. It's, so if you like either or, I think you'll like this book because you have magics in the title. You know, you're gonna have witches, you're gonna have elves and mermaids, all those kind of things. But it's all because of this plague that took our modern world. And when I think like plagues and in our modern times, I think of that being more science fiction. But there's like a lot of Celtic inspired fantasy here. So if you like Scottish, Welsh, you're getting all that kind of folklore involved. So I do like all of that. I like that this is taking place in our modern world, and I like the magical elements and everything that were used. So we're going to give that a 3. The writing, we're going to give that a 3 as well. I didn't hate it. Nothing with the writing really bothered me. Yeah, I don't have any notes on the writing, so the writing is fine. It's fine. Now, the plot is where I do have some issues. We're going back to the notes over here. My main thing is these characters never felt like anything actually bad would happen. Everything worked out for them, and I think this could fall back on the pacing, so that could, you know, go in the writing category. We would all be hyping up, preparing for this big battle. Once we get to the battle, it's like bam bam bam, won, we did it, we're good. Like, it never feels like there's any real stakes to the story. So I think, because we think this overarching plot of the whole series, we're going to give that a 3 and then do the intrigue a 2, because I could even go down to a 1, but since I wrote down 2, we're going to stick with the 2. That those stakes, they were not there. I'm like, it's going to work out for our characters. Everything's going to work out for them. And as I said, it would like hype up these big battles, and then it would just be like, yep, I mean, we might have one side character die there or get injured, but the stakes were never really that high as they should be in this kind of situation. So we're giving the intrigue a 2 as well. Logic, I always have a really hard time in general, but especially for like fantasy, sci-fi, it's hard. So, but if we think the logical progression of the story, yeah, I mean, it's a 3. And enjoyment, I'm giving a 2 because this book did not do anything for me whatsoever. I definitely think the first book is the best book in the series. And so this would be a series that it would be a maybe. If you just want to have a light fantasy, hold on, I'm doing numbers, so I can't focus, I can't talk and do numbers at the same time. So 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2, 18 divided by 7. So this gives a 2.5, 2.57 if you want to be precise, where it didn't do anything for me. Yeah, so this was a series with a strong start and a weak finish. Yeah, so that was the Rise of Magicks. We'll be starting a new book tomorrow. It's going to be a Star Wars. So we're going from fantasy to a sci-fi book to for this vlog. And yeah, I'm like, the 2-star books. I'm glad this isn't a month where I do my long reviews because I don't have that much to say. It didn't do anything for me. But yeah, it's a maybe on this series. I think if you're somebody looking for a light fantasy, you don't read a whole lot of fantasy, but maybe you want to dip your toes in. You do have some romance here, and if you like young adult and are transitioning to reading adult, I think this would be a good one. I did see that it said like some spice on Fable. I don't remember what each level the spice rating is, but no, it's not that bad. Like, I'm trying to think if there were even like really like sexual words that were used. I don't really remember any. So they do swear occasionally in there and everything. So I do think it's a good transitional piece if you're wanting to get into adult books. But those are my thoughts on the Rise of Magicks by Nora Roberts, another trilogy complete. So I'm glad that that was my focus this month, was reading sequels, getting along in series. So I'm really glad, patting myself on the back for that. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. So it is kind of dark in here because I have the lights off. It is supposed to be 107 degrees here today with like 60% humidity. So, you know, we are wanting to keep it as cool as possible, and light, you know, adds heat. But y'all know I usually wait till Thursday to open all my packages, but this one is very exciting because this is the new release from the author who wrote my all-time favorite book, and that is Misbehaving at the Crossroads by Henri Fenton Jeffers. This is an essays and writings collection, so this is what I will start after I finish Appalachian Reckonings. I'm just so excited, like screaming, crying, throwing up. Love the cover. I love that art. I don't know who the artist is. It probably says on here somewhere. Yeah, it's links together from Elizabeth Catlett, and it was painted, I guess, in 1996. But let's read the description here. Henri Fenton Jeffers is at a crossroads. Traditional African / Black American cultures present the crossroads as a place of simultaneously difficulty and potential. In contemporary times, Kimberly Crenshaw coined the phrase intersectionality to explain the unique position of Black women in America. In many ways, they are at a third crossroads, attempting to fit into notions of femininity. I know a lot of Southern people who can't pronounce that word, okay. And respectability, primarily assigned to white women, while improvising strategies to combat oppression. I don't know why I can't talk. Necessary and sharply observed, provocative and humane, full of the insights and brilliance that have characterized Jeffers' poetry and fiction. Misbehaving at the Crossroads illustrates the life of one extraordinary Black woman and her extraordinary four mothers. So, oh my gosh, I am so excited to pick this up next. Another new release, but it's like all the favorite authors are putting books out. Layla Motley also had a book release today, so I didn't pre-order it because I got her other book at Target, Nightcrawling, and it looks like this one's not going to be available at Target. I was assuming that it would be, but it's not looking like it, but I do need to get my hands on that. So all the favorite authors have been releasing books in June. Super exciting, and again, I cannot wait to pick up this book next. Turn off the studio light. I didn't mean to do that, but I'm going to water the plants, and then after that I am going to log all the books that I've hauled this month onto Goodreads. We're starting to do reset things because I didn't do any yesterday, so we're just gonna go through the hauled books, put them into Goodreads. I have already gone through them to see if any had ebooks or audiobooks, so we're going to sort them by genre, take them, put them on the bookshelf. Probably not the smart thing to be doing, carrying loads of books upstairs when it's 107 degrees, but you know, priorities. So I'm going to do that. I just want y'all to know, y'all see this little space that I have he has to take up all of it, and he keeps pushing the books. Okay, nonfiction definitely stole the show this month for the genre with the most books. We have contemporary historical, which is usually our biggest, nonfiction, romance, classic, fantasy, mystery, I know, but thriller, horror, sci-fi, and then we have a graphic novel and a short story collection. So those, I don't put them on my typical shelves, they're on a different shelf. So this was the haul this month. I did not expect it to be predominantly nonfiction, but there's no theme for the book buying this month. Well, there was buying sequels, that was a theme, but you know, how many sequels can you buy? I got all of the books sorted and where they needed to go, so that's why we are a hot mess. But I want to talk about the book that I am starting today. This is Cataclysm by Lydia Kang, part of the Star Wars High Republic series. So let's see together what this one is all about. So after 5 years of conflict, the planets of Iram and Urano are on the cusp of real peace. But when news breaks of a disaster at the treaty signing of Jeddah, violence reignites on the beleaguered worlds. Together, the royal heirs of both planets, Fantuzan and Ziri Albaran, working alongside the Jedi, have uncovered evidence that the conflict is being orchestrated by outside forces, and all signs point to the mysterious path of the Open Hand, whom the Jedi also suspect of causing disaster on Jeddah. With time and answers in short supply, the Jedi must divide their focus between helping quell the renewed violence on Iram and Urano and investigating the path. Among them is Jella Natai, who turns to one person she believes can unravel the mystery, but the last person she wants to trust, Axel Greylark. The Chancellor's son, imprisoned for his crimes, has only sought to unburden himself of the weight of his family name. Will he reconcile with the Jedi and aid in their quest for justice and peace, or embrace the path's promise of true freedom? All roads lead to Dalna, Gela and her allies prepare to take on a foe unlike any they've ever faced, and it will take all of their trust in the Force and in one another to survive. I got to my stopping point for the day in Cataclysm. Got to 16%, which was 63 pages read. And to let y'all know, out of my TBR this month, this book is the one that was the most intimidating to me. I am not really certain anymore if this is kind of considered a series. Like, you have to read you have to read Convergence to read this, because just the way it was all like listed on Goodreads and listed on, you know, all the other bookish social media places, it doesn't really seem that way. But at the same time, I do think like you're following some of the same characters and everything, so I do think it would probably work best if you do read the one book first and then read this one. But it's been a little while since I've been in the Star Wars universe, so it is all feeling like new territory, where some of this, like the plot lines, I'm like, okay, I kind of remember that. But it's, again, like the last book I read, where I have to get used to these characters again. And let's go through my notes. So yes, we have a ceasefire has been broken. There is an explosion of a ship on the moon of the planet, and on one of these planets is controlled by, like, water is their big thing. Like, the planet is majority water. So as you all know, the moon controls the tides and waves and how the ocean works, so that is a very big threat to them, and the moon's being threatened because that could cause catastrophe on the planet. So that is something that is happening. And then we have in the royal family of that planet, everybody's just kind of wanting to do other things, because we had the queen and she is like, we need to investigate this, it has to be our rival planet. Now her son, the prince, is married to a woman who is of nobility from that rival planet. So he's like, no, we don't need to do that, and is very much on his wife's side rather than his mother's side. And on that ship that they find, there is a bioweapon, potentially a bioweapon. So that adds in more conflict. So they're like, ceasefire, it's over. And all this is reminding me a lot of what's happening with current events in our real world, of countries having a ceasefire and maybe not really listening to that, not really caring about that. But I do not pretend to be like vastly not, I don't have a lot of knowledge on how war games work. That it's a chess game, that's all I know. But this is so that was that note there. But with the writing, especially in our second chapter, we're every single POV in that chapter, and we're just jumping all over the place, and it's just all over the place. It's very chaotic. And again, it's like I'm going to say nearing a 30-page chapter, so it's a lot to be taken in, and you're just being thrown all over the place. So I probably would have done that a little bit differently, but so far all the other chapters have been, flowing well, not jumping all over the place. I think I was trying to get us readjusted to the story, but honestly, that early on in the book, that is personally for me overwhelming to read. So those are my thoughts on Cataclysm. Again, I'm only 16% into this. There's a whole lot of book to go, so the thoughts could change, but at this point I really don't think they will. But you never know. Knock on wood that they do, and that this turns into a 5-star reading experience. Hey guys, happy Wednesday. So we're currently having a thunderstorm, the power keeps flickering, and the pets, or Delilah, is scared, so if we have any intrusions while filming, that is why. So the AC guy did come today, but he was coming just to kind of get a game plan of what we're going to do, and that's just my dad clapping to let y'all know if y'all hear that. But a game plan for getting a new unit. He said we don't need any new ductwork, but we are going to get a new thermostat. And again, he was confirming that this house was very poorly built. I think like the company who built the houses in the neighborhood went bankrupt or something, but that where the AC comes into the house was not a good place at all. So, and they built this house really quickly. That was a big discussion back a few years ago, it could be a decade ago, of these cookie cutter houses, even though my neighborhood's not cookie cutter, but houses that were built in the 2000s were just boo, 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 built really fast and not really put, it's not 100 years ago where people put their everything into building a house. Because neighborhoods are still a relatively new thing. These kind of neighborhoods, suburban neighborhoods became a thing after World War II, and yeah, so the houses 100 years ago are definitely going to be, I feel like people were building them because they needed somewhere to live. The book that I picked up at Target today is The Girls of Good Fortune by Christina McMorris, and it has frayed edges. It's taken place in Oregon in 1888, and literally this is all I needed to know. Amid the subterranean labyrinth of Portland's notorious Shanghai tunnels, a woman awakens in an underground cell, drugged and disguised. So I was scared of the scene in Babylon, that movie that came out a few years ago, where they go into this underground place, and it was the layers of hell basically, and that's what that reminded me. There we go. So I don't have a lot of notes on here. We had the Jedi, they're coming to investigate the incident that I told y'all about, and this is a book where I meant to tell y'all yesterday, and I might have, that at this point in the saga, in the history of Star Wars, we are starting to get Easter eggs to the main series, characters in the main series, that kind of thing. So if you're looking for Easter eggs, you're going to find some in this book. And then a discussion that I definitely wanted to have are the Legends versus canon books. Legends is basically before Disney took over, and before they took over Star Wars, so this would be a canon book, being this is a Disney book, that era of Star Wars. I do prefer the Legends books so far anyway to the canon books, and have just found them more intriguing and more layered and everything, when I feel these are just a lot more generic. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on that. But I have read some good I've read some good canon books, and I've read some bad legend books, and vice versa. So everybody's gonna have their bad apples of the bucket, but This one is not doing a whole lot for me, but it could also be that it's like 100 degrees and I'm just like, eh. Like, you know, not focusing. It's like, it's so hot. Yeah, we will have to see. But I read 77 pages, I think it was today. I got to 35% of the way into the book. Now halfway into The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, so I do want to do an update. I am really enjoying this. I'd say it's like a 3.5, somewhere in that category, because it did take me a little while to get into, and we will get into the thoughts. So the characters I was thinking about, I was like, I think they're going to be a 3 because I don't really feel anything towards them, but I was like, is it more of a 3.5 once again, because they are very self-aware, and I can really appreciate that because so many books seem to lack that. And they have their faults, they have flaws, they have their faults. They are very realistic characters, and as I said, they're not perfect, and I do like when a book can do that. So I'm thinking more so characters go forward, because I don't feel that emotional connection. I don't necessarily like these people, but this story is very intriguing. The atmosphere is good. Once again, I would say a 4. It is, our main plot line, our present day is in 2022. We haven't had, the flashbacks are told in like a podcast format, so she's on the podcast telling about the past. But when we do have those college campus, it just reminds me so much of like the 2010s time period. I am trying to do the math in my head of when that it would be taking place. So 22 minus 8, and maybe add 4 to that. So like 2010 probably. So yeah, if you like Bunny by Mona Awad, I think you will like this setting. And always when we have an academic setting, I have to recommend The Secret History, or at least say it's similar, because Secret History, you know, is not my favorite Donna Tartt book. It's my least favorite Donna Tartt book, which is an unpopular opinion. But yes, it has that 2010s college campus. Pitch Perfect is what I always think of, and with the purple cover, I always think of Pitch Perfect. The writing is good. It can be a bit on the nose at times, like the author doesn't trust us. We'll talk more about that with the plot, but I am like, yeah, this is so obvious. You're putting it right in my face. You're not leaving anything to interpret, nothing for the imagination, you know. So with the plot, oh my gosh, yeah, the plot is really good. It starts out, I'm like, you know, they go to report a rape, and the cops are like, you have no proof of this, blah, blah, you know, the misogynistic police chief, or, you know, the cop, the detective on the case. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we hear this all the time. Is this going to really be like any other story? That's how I felt at first. But let it develop. And that's something kind of leaning back into the writing. I'm only 50% into this book. I feel like I'm 51% to be exact. But I feel like I've been in this book forever. It's really, really a slow burn mystery. I don't think it is like... I'm not complaining that it's long, like it doesn't feel like it's not descriptive writing or anything like that. And as I said, it's just a slow burn. But I do wonder if I read this in a different way, if I read this in a different capacity, if I would feel different about that. And I am doing the audiobook, just to let y'all know. I'm following along with the audiobook because it was suggested on Goodreads, but I don't know if I recommend the audiobook. I think the narrator sounds a bit robotic, but it seems pretty middle ground of how people feel about this narrator. I saw people saying that it sounds like she just wants the book to be over. I haven't picked up on that. I think she sounds a bit robotic, and I'm like, people don't really talk like that, especially people of these ages. But again, with the plot, if you like cults, and I've never read anything with this like kind of cult. It's very erotic. And I'm not going to say it's an extremely spicy book or anything like that, but it's an erotic thriller. And I do like how we're seeing these with thrillers. I like when it's an amateur, you know, going at it. Yes, we do with the podcast person, but I don't like thrillers where it's the police that you're following, or, you know, somebody in an authority role. So I am liking that as this kind of like, we're going to take this in our own hands since the cops don't seem to care. But when I was talking about things being a bit on the nose, so when I'm talking about that, there's obviously big themes of feminism and like the Me Too movement, I'm not sure what year this book came out. I told you part of the plot's in 2022, so probably around that time period. It's just like so many quotes and everything. I'm like, come on, we know this. It's like with the Barbie movie, where I think it's a great introductory point if you're getting into feminism and wanting to learn about the feminism movement. But when you're somebody who's been immersed in that for, 10, 15 years, it's just like, yeah, like I know that. So I do think it could be a bit of an introductory point. So I would say the plot is a 4, just because that feminism theme I think is a bit on the nose and a bit in your face. Like the author's like, this is a feminist work, this is a feminist work, and I'm like, yeah, I know, you don't need to tell me. But then again, the plot itself is crazy with this like secret society, the cults, and ultra rich. Think of like what Wall Street people are doing behind closed doors. Very intriguing, very entertaining. Again, I haven't read anything about it. And how I got this in a subscription box, there's a note from the author. So seeing some of what this book is based on, and there's like a picture that came with it, it's just like, whoa, that's crazy. So yes, I am enjoying The Last Housewife, which is, nice, because I'm not really enjoying Cataclysm. But those are my updates for the day. I'm gonna get a cold bath. I took my first ever like cold shower. I'm not gonna say my first ever, because there have been times in history where natural disasters have happened and I've had to take cold baths and showers. So it is something very different for me, because I am somebody who, I will take my baths as hot as it can go. But with the heat wave that we're in, which that thunderstorm earlier, I did record some of it, and I might have talked about it, like we had the doors open, and just letting that cold air come in, because it cold. I don't know how many degrees it dropped, but it felt so good. And like the smell of the rain, like I could smell it coming. I was like, oh my gosh, it smells so good. Like it was just really nice. Like the kids behind me, they were getting to play outside. I said hey to them, but because I haven't seen, like, it's been so quiet here. I don't know if it's because of the heat or if it's just because my house is so loud with the fans, but like there haven't been kids outside, there haven't been people doing yard work, and there hasn't been as much traffic. But again, that can be because it's summer vacation, but today it was good to see people outside, enjoying the outside. But yes, I don't really have any plans for tomorrow. I was thinking that, I was like, when am I gonna dress nice again? But I think it's gonna be Friday. Yeah, it is gonna be Friday, because I'm going out to lunch on Friday. But that is all. I really like this outfit. I really like how these colors mesh together. I didn't know if they would or not, but I do think it goes good, just these warm colors all together. But that is all that I have to talk to y'all about, and I will see you tomorrow on Thursday. We didn't do anything reset related today, so I do need to put the business cards and the books I'm unhauling, stamp the books I'm keeping, and then do the I don't think my Kindle's up. Oh, the Kindle's over here. We need to do a July Kindle spread, do one for July, so we'll be doing all that tomorrow. Postponing all of that. What is that called? Procrastinating. That's what we're going to be doing. So fun. Hey guys, it is Thursday. It is the day that we open the mail. So starting with the first thing I have here, this is a dress, but it is by Frankie's Bikinis. I got this I almost read Revolve, yeah. I think this is from like the Bella Hadid's line with Frankie's Bikinis. So yeah, well, that looks interesting. I don't know if y'all can see that. That's on the sleeve. So it's supposed to light up, but I guess we're unraveling it. Okay, with these things, you always gotta be careful. You don't want pets, kids, if you have kids, to get into that. This is the dress, this knit dress. Very like 60s looking, if you ask me. So yeah, this is Frankie Bikini's Bella, Malibu, California. So I got that dress. I will be doing a TikTok where I try that on, so we're just gonna throw that back in the bag there. Then we have some Amazon. These I get every 6 months. This is a rodent and pest repeller, electronic ultrasonic, and these have worked very well for my family. You plug them into the wall. I think there's like 6 of them in the size that I get. Yep, 6. and you can't hear it, but it's a very like high-pitched noise that like mice, mosquitoes, roaches, they do not like, so it draws them away. So this has never happened to me personally, but once you put them in, that could cause a lot to come out because they're all trying to leave. So like you might have a mouse show up, you might have roaches, whatever, show up because they're all trying to get out the door outside. Again, that's never happened to me personally, but they do say that that can happen, and this is for indoor and outdoor use, but for me outside I don't really mind because that's where they're supposed to be. So we got these. I get them every 6 months, and this is something that is a wristband for support for your wrist. I was really thinking I might need to wear these today, but if you work out like for lifting weights, they can be good. And I really like, I don't want to say really, but I hurt my wrist working out last week where I just, you know, overdid it. And that's why I ordered these, because I didn't know how long that injury would last for. I think it only lasted for like a day or two, but I have these now so I can have that support when I am lifting weights, that I'm not going to, you know, at least do really bad damage to my wrist or anything. Again, that's from Amazon. And I did get a book on eBay because the seller offered me 25% off. It might have even been a little bit more than that. And if you offer me 25 or over % off, I will purchase the item, you know, if it's on my watch list or whatever. I'm not going to purchase random items. So this is Dance of the Tiger, a novel of the Ice Age by Bjorn Curtin, and with an introduction by Stephen J. Gould. It is, you know, exactly what it said, with Neanderthals and everything, which I am interested in. So I don't know why I thought he was Swedish. Okay, several novels in Swedish, because it says, okay, he was just a professor at in Helsinki. Oh, do we have annotations? Yeah, we do have some annotations. Sorry. I love when books, used books have those, just to see what the original reader, if they were the original reader, but see what a previous reader was thinking. As I said, we do need to do the reset stuff, so we're going to work on the wrap up for the month, seeing what I'm going to keep, seeing what I'm going to unhaul. We will go and do that now. Got to a quarter of the way into Appalachian Reckoning, so I do want to give my thoughts so far. Okay, so apparently, allegedly, because I've not read Hillbilly Elegy, so that's why I have to say allegedly, apparently, because I haven't read it, so I can't really critique that. J.D. Vance, if you don't know, he's the Vice President of the United States, because my grandma never knows when I bring up J.D. Vance. She's like, who? And I was like, he's the Vice President, and she was like, of what? Of America. But okay, so he, in his story, he grew up in Ohio, but his grandparents lived in Kentucky. And this is just what I'm getting from this. I don't actually know. So but he spent a lot of time, like in the summer, he would go stay with his grandparents in Kentucky. And there was just like a lot of drug and drinking and violence. And apparently he is saying that that's his family's story, that that's everybody in Appalachia's story. That is, let me go back to a page here that says, overall, I do not question Vance's accounts of his family. Instead, I oppose the way he suggests that they apply to Appalachian migrants and Appalachian culture in general. So he's really like apparently generalizing, universalizing his experience, saying everybody in Appalachia is like that. Now for me, using common sense, Appalachia spreads from Alabama all the way up to Maine. Think of how many people live there, and even your next door neighbor is not going to have the same life experience that you have. So for me, again, common sense, not everybody in that area is going to have the same experience. So I know, I'm like, J.D. Vance might be saying that, but I know that's not true. I know not everybody is going to have the same experience. I know from personal experience to be in Appalachia, not everybody is the same. Not everybody is white, working class. Like, no, there's, you know, every race, every class, you know, all of that kind of thing, that everybody is different. So just that's me. I think that's common sense. I think this book is really for people who maybe, I don't want to say they lack common sense, but maybe are not really familiar with the Appalachia. This is from the University of West Virginia Press. So I think this is supposed to be eye-opening for people who don't know that, who think Appalachian is just one thing, being Appalachian is just one thing, or people who just know nothing about Appalachia, and they think that J.D. Vance is like really like stereotyping Appalachian people to be hillbillies, when again that's not the case, because everybody's story is different. But I don't think we should discount his story, because that is his story. But again, he shouldn't generalize, because you shouldn't generalize in general. We're generalizing generalization, because as I just said, everybody's story is different. I do think this would work more if I had read Hillbilly Elegy, which I haven't. Also, this was published in like 2019. It was published before he was a politician in any state, way before he was vice president, before he was, I think he was like a senator or representative or something. I'm not exactly sure. It might even just be on a state level. This is before all of that, when there was this talks that he might run for office in Ohio. So it says in the introduction that this book is not written to demonize J.D. Vance, which I think some have kind of gone that far, because I was just, whoa, like, but it makes sense that these people in this culture would be so angry that somebody is generalizing their culture. But I do really like Roger Guy, who I read from today. Just he had, because a lot of these people were saying like, this shouldn't be taught in schools and all that, because it's not true for everybody's Appalachian experience. But to me, that's very dangerous to say something like that, because books in schools are being thrown in all the time. And just because you're learning and dissecting something does not mean that you agree with what that person is writing. So I really like what Roger Guy had to say here. Finally, any work that spawns such enthusiastic and spirited public response and debate is noteworthy. As an academic, I am a firm proponent of the free exchange of ideas and oppose any type of censorship or thought police when it comes to creative expression. One of the strengths of Hillbilly Elegy is that Vance offers insight about and gives voice to the public disillusionment with abandonment by social, political, especially political, and economic institutions felt by many of his generation. The popularity of his book has opened up an opportunity to engage one another about the changes required to address deep and enduring contemporary social problems, and perhaps comes to some agreement on their proximate causes, be they cultural or structural. My hope is that through civil public discourse, we, as Americans, may advance beyond the reoccurring stereotypes about any migrant group that reinforce and justify these social fissures that seem to have widened in recent years, whether they involve travel bans, immigration, or bigotry. So I do think that any sort of book, I mean, obviously it does depend on how the teacher or how the professor is teaching it. I think that plays a huge part in it, but I don't think you need to straight up be like, no, this book shouldn't be taught in schools, there shouldn't be lectures about it. I don't believe that. I think that's very dangerous to say, even if I don't agree with generalizing a culture and all that. Apparently, allegedly, that's what he's doing, because again, I have not read Hillbilly Elegy, so I cannot say. But yes, I do think Roger Guy, who I read from today, has been like the most like intelligent one in this. Not knocking the other people, but his is one that was really dissecting, and I think he does a fantastic job of how he does it. But I did really like this poem that I read yesterday, Panning for Gold, A Reflection of Life from Appalachia by Ricardo Nazario y Colon. I thought his was good as well. So there's a lot of different kinds of opinions in here and everything. But those are the two recently that I've read and have really enjoyed. Oh, and I remember what I had forgotten earlier. So when it talks about migrants, like, what does that mean? So in the last century, a lot of people from Appalachia, because you have to think a lot of jobs have been taken from this region, particularly, coal mining, tobacco industry. A lot of these industries have they're not as big and prosperous as they used to be as we, develop in technology and that kind of thing. And with health, because, tobacco is cigarettes, and, whole other thing. But a lot of jobs they left the region of Appalachia, so people had to follow jobs. So a lot of people went to Chicago, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Dayton. They went where the jobs were. So those people were migrating from Appalachia to the Midwest, to the Northeast, which my maternal grandfather was born in, from my understanding from census records, in Richmond, Virginia, grew up a little bit in Bluefield, West Virginia, but they moved south. So I think that's interesting that because like his parents and all were from Tennessee, but that my Appalachian heritage moved south when it seems like a lot went north into the Midwest. So that's kind of interesting. But those are my thoughts so far on Appalachian Reckoning. I would say it's kind of like a high 2, a 3, just because I haven't read the book, like haven't read Hillbilly Elegy, so I'm just like, I'll take your word for it, but I really don't know. So yes, I would only recommend this really if you have read Hillbilly Elegy, or if you don't know anything about Appalachia. So yeah, that's another thing. Since I haven't read Hillbilly Elegy, I think this has kind of a slight bias, but again, because I haven't read the book, so I don't know. But those are my thoughts on Appalachian Reckoning. I'm going to be wrapping up the vlog here. So with Cataclysm, still at 2-star vibes. It's not doing a whole lot for me. I haven't connected with the characters, and this is a plot heavy book. So if I'm not connected with the characters, I don't really care what's happening in the plot. Let's see, I have hauled 3 books this week. One was a pre-order, one was secondhand, and one was new. I have finished 1 book this week. So those are our weekly stats. Now, what are the plans for next week? What do I plan to read next week? I'm going to be reading my nonfiction pick, and that is The History of Milan under Sforza by like Cecilia May, something like that. But I think nonfiction titles are usually pretty self-explanatory, so it's going to be a book diving into the Sforza family who were ruling Milan during the Renaissance in Italy, and that is the book I plan on reading next week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way through, leave a fruit emoji in the comments below, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!